Yo, GD here, Limitless, and back on F1 2021 as always, and continuing our Hotlap and setup series, which I'm still amazed to say that we are almost at the end of it. So we've almost done every single track. I think we've already got 3 or 4 tracks left, which I won't be doing every day, probably every other day, just to taking a little bit of a break. But we arrived at Mexico, and as usual, we're just gonna gloss over this first lap, and then the next time around we will dissect it properly. So yeah, this track is probably one of my favorites to drive, especially in a race. I think this is one of my strongest tracks in a race because you need to manage the tyre temperatures, corner cutting, track limits, which is something I'm usually consistently trying to make an effort to avoid. And you just need a lot of patience around here. But in terms of one lap pace, it's never actually been a great track for me, despite me really enjoying it. But this up here, this didn't really take too long at all. And as I always say, I always try and go for a setup that is consistently fast, drivable, and good online. And I will be updating my other setups. I will be putting a pinned comment on my other videos if I've improved it, such as Bahrain, which I will be doing very soon. So I'll always be keeping you up to date. As you can see, the current cross the line is a 12.7, which I was pretty satisfied with, and a legit number 2 on the leaderboard, in my opinion. But now we come to start the lap. Let's slow it down and let's see what is happening. So going into turn 1, I think I'm using 6.9 wings, or might even be 7.9 wings. We'll see when we actually come to see the setup. But on the left hand side, this is what I am looking. I'm looking at this 100-meter board here. So once it goes out of view, that's when I completely go on the brakes. Very awkward first corner. You either avoid or you commit. This time we committed to actually hitting the sausage curb, managing to bounce around that nicely. These 2 corners you have to absolutely mount. You have to go quite slow into the left-hander, turn much earlier than you think, and then pretty much try and cut it as much as you can without the track limits doing anything. And on that occasion we did it fairly well, but not as good as Hawks. If we had his first sector on my days, our time would be insane. But coming into, again, like the first corner, as a 100-meter board goes out of view, that's where you want to be braking. So going into it, going down through the gears slowly, just as we hit the apex, then immediately turn to the right, kissing this curb here. Looking to the left-hand side at this pole, this black pole here. As that goes out of view, that's when I brake and turn in. Not a full commitment on the brakes, a little dab on the brakes, up into third gear as you hit the curb, get some good traction on the exit. Coming into this one, I look at the black box as I completely pass it. Once I feel the back end of the car's past it, that's where I turn in 5th gear, making sure you mount these curbs. Very, very important you do that. You have to do it again for this left-hander. It's pretty much like scale electrics. You have to hit the sign, otherwise you're just going nowhere. And a similar story for this right-hander. You want to be going completely flat out through a section. So if you can't go flat out, then you need to change the setup for a 1-lap pace for sure. So did that very nicely. Make sure you get in the DRS line. A lot of people forget about that. And this one here, just as I go underneath this back box, or once I go past it, that's where I brake and turn in, kissing this curb on the inside, aiming for this other black box. As we get to it, that's where I brake and turn in, kissing this curb again. You don't want to mount this one on the sausage curb. Same for this one here. Let the car drift out wide. As you go past the black box, that is the turning in point, 2nd gear. Then stay nice and tight to the right hand side to minimize the distance of the track. Go in this curb, and we do it at 12.7. I was really happy with that. I think I could do a 5, spending a little bit more time on it and really getting that first sector perfected. But I think it's all about how well you cut that corner, and you'll be able to see at the end we were consistently pretty fast. Being the likes of Run Hard, but he hasn't done his time for a while here, so I suspect he could probably improve along with some others. But I was actually very happy with that lap. Good lap by the guy up in first place, I believe is on a wheel, so that's pretty impressive. I think it's really only the first sector I lose most of the time, but you can see it's 7.9 wings, so just offering a little bit more stability around here. 82.56, that's very typical what I use. All the way to the right for the top 2. Front camber, just to make sure in the high speed it's nice and stable, and the rear camber, making sure we have as much low speed rotation as possible. Front toes always on 0.07. 1-7, so you need quite a lot of rotation. That's why I spaced out the wings. 2-7, 2-7, very standard for me and just works very well. 156 maximum tire pressures. We want all the responsiveness, all the straight line speed we can possibly get, because tire temps is not that big of an issue in this game. And you can see by the lap times below, we were very consistent, doing 0.8s and 7s, and I think I got into the 12s after about 5 laps or something like that. So I really didn't do that much laps around here, but that's why I'm pretty happy with this setup. So really hope this is useful to you. A main video should be coming at 5 PM today. If you want to join my lobbies, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Thank you so much for the support. I hope you had a great weekend. Peace.